So who's got it right? Well, let's ask political analyst Rashad Ritchie and America First Action Communications Director Kelly Sadler. Kelly, let me start with you. Again, the market is at a record, but so are wages. Wages are looking phenomenal. Home ownership is the best it's been since the first quarter of 2014. 7 million job openings. It feels like and looks like, according to the data, this is more than just rich people doing better.
Well, Charles, I don't understand what world these Democrats are living in. Basically, when you say wage growth is rising is at its fastest clip under the Trump years than it has been under the last 10 years. Also, with wages, we're seeing low and middle class earners earn twice as much, or their wages grow twice as fast as their superiors. So President Trump is really, cutting down on this income inequality. And then you say, just like the consumer confidence, we had record, retail holiday sales seasons, 3.4% over last year. The Saturday before Christmas was the highest retail day ever in the history of the United States. So I would say that people are feeling pretty good about their economic situation, even if they don't really want to give President Trump credit for that.
Rashad, Pew put out a research report on the economy, and those who say that it's hurting a little or a lot the middle class, 58%, hurting the poor, 64%, hurting you and your family, 46%. So I see, why Democrats are seizing on this or saying this, because, even when people are doing well, they can look around and say, maybe I should be doing better, or someone is doing better than I am.
Well, while the majority of Americans are in agreement that the economy is, quote unquote, good, those same Americans, not Democrats, not just Republicans, not just independents, but Americans, those same Americans are saying that they still feel economically vulnerable. But let's step outside of the feeling, Charles. Let's go right into the actual data. 5.5%, that's the number to remember. That is the projection of increasing health care costs every single year until 2027 if something is not done. President Trump made a promise. He said the Republican Party would be known as the party of health care. That has not happened. Because of the increasing cost of health care, it has outpaced the increase of wages in the United States. 52% of Americans are saying that health care cost has affected their day-to-day living, and there's an argument politically about the wealth tax. 76% of Americans feel as if rich folk do not pay their fair share of taxes. Regardless of where you're at on that political argument, that is something that Republicans have failed to articulate and connect to the vote.
Kelly, let me bring you back on these topics. We know that medical health care, if you will, played a pivotal role in the midterm elections. President Trump has taken some initiatives since then. There's some other promises on there. How critical of an issue do you think that would be for next year? And how much more does the president have to spread the message that this economy is one of the best that we have seen in our lifetime?
Well, in terms of health care, and I'm glad how the Democratic strategists flipped the switch from this raging, beautiful economy to health care. But the president has addressed health care costs. Under HHS, under Secretary Azar, there's been a record number of generic drugs that have been approved, which has, for the first time, I think, in 56 years, lowered the cost of prescription drugs to the consumer. There's also things that they're doing on the transparency front through executive orders, making hospitals make sure that there's no surprise billings when you go in there for an emergency, or knowing what the costs are for your procedures up front. So these are incremental steps that the president is taking to address, the problems and the costs of health care, because we as Republicans also do recognize that it is a problem, but we believe that it's market-based solutions that are going to solve it, not this government takeover, Medicare for all, $52 trillion, expenditure that's going to make
And there's
things
no
better.
doubt, even within the Democratic Party, there's much debate over that. It was a major bone of contention. Rashad, here's the thing, though. Republicans are going to be able to say to folks, hey, there are obviously people that we still want to lift up, but are more people doing better now than they were before President Trump took office? And the answer is a resounding yes. Absolutely. More people are working. More people have higher wages. Even folks with felonies, nonviolent felons, are getting jobs. I mean, it's hard to argue against that. You can argue against it, but the facts just aren't there.
Well, that depends on your context, Charles. For some people, the economy is the #1 priority as it relates to who they vote for. For others, it simply is not.
Well,
and
as a political expert, you know, typically it's the number one thing for everybody. Typically, when we go into that voting booth, there's a lot of things we're thinking about, but ultimately we think about our pocketbooks and our wallets first and foremost, don't we?
Yeah, but this is not a typical president. Even when you look at the polling data, 61% of Americans believe the economy is strong and doing good. However, only 43% of Americans are giving this president the credit. His approval rating has never inched over 50%, even when the economy has steadily held over 50% confidence of the American voter. That is a problem. So obviously, the same logic that applied to every other president before President Trump is not applying here.
Rashad, don't hang on those polls, my man. Don't hang on those polls. That's all I can tell you.
They're not predictions. They're just snapshots, Charles. That's all.
All right, Rashad, Kelly, thank you both very much.
Thank you.